Hello, my dear friends. Thank you again for joining me. I'm Ryan Campbell. You're here at the conversation, and today we are talking to Kristi Conforti and Tyler Summersett, and you are with the Blue Zones Project in Tuolumne County.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me. And I just kind of wanted to start out. So I've been seeing, Blue Zones Project stuff everywhere. You've been holding events in the community. You've been really active in getting out there and talking about this. But, for people that aren't aware, can you just kind of give a high level description of what the idea of Blue Zones is about? Where did that term come from? Where did this come from, and what is your mission here?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. So we'll keep it super simple. We've had a lot of folks come in and say, holy mackerel, we did not realize that Tuolumne County is one of the world's blue zones. And so we have to stop people there and say, you're right, we are not a blue zone. So what does that term mean? I think just to start the conversation, this research that was done around the globe to find where are people living statistically significant longer lives. And each time they would find a centenarian, they would put a blue dot on the map. Centenarian here, a centenarian here.
And what's a centenarian?
A centenarian is someone who has lived to be 100 years old.
Okay. So.
And as they started putting these dots down on the map, they realized, hey, there are some, collections of folks where centenarians are more common, and they circled those blue dots with a blue pen, and those became known as blue zones. So there are 5 blue zones in the world, one of which is in the United States down in Southern California in the community of Loma Linda.
Really?
So Tuolumne County is a blue zones project, which means can we take the lessons that we learned from these 5 areas in the world where people are living long, healthy lives, disease-free lives, and implement some of those strategies to try and affect the outcomes here in Tuolumne County.
You mentioned Loma Linda. What are some of the other blue zone locations throughout the world? There's 5 of them?
Yes. Yeah. Okinawa, Japan.
Okay.
Sardinia, Italy. The Nicoya Peninsula region in
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. Yeah, I need some Costa Rican coffee. And the last one is, oh my gosh.
Ikaria.
Yeah, Ikaria, Greece.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they're all pretty Mediterranean, warmer coastal
Right.
climate,
Yeah.
sounds like. What are some other similarities between them? Because I find this really fascinating how it's kind of like you look at cultures and different traditions that spring up over time. Like it's just Mediterranean countries have spicier foods.
Well,
Across the world,
Right.
even ones that never interacted with each other develop the similar type of cuisine. Things like that. Is it about what you eat? Is it about the
Yes.
climate? Is it about all of those things put together?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are 4 main similarities that we see. The first one is these folks are all very conscientious about what they eat and how much. They all move every day just as part of their daily life, not a gym membership to 24-hour fitness, but just as part of their daily lives. They are active. They are all socially connected. So all these folks are, seeing friends and family on a regular basis and spending time with one another. And then finally, they all have a real sense of purpose. Every day when they wake up, they know what it is, that they're jumping out of bed for. And there's 9 principles overall, but I think they're mostly captured in those core 4.
Yeah, and that sense of purpose to me is a big one. It's kind of like it actually impacts your health to
Yes.
have a direction and know what you stand for and who you are and what's important in your community, and those type of things.
Yeah, the research they've done shows that you can live up to 7 years longer if you have a defined goal and purpose for your life. You have that reason to wake up in the morning. And we offer what we call a purpose workshop. It's a 2-hour workshop where we really dive in and help people either reaffirm what they think their purpose is or find something that they weren't really sure about. And it goes to the core of their being, what drives them, what they're passionate about. It's I don't know if you're aware of Strength Finders, but it's similar to that, where it's like that thing you can't not do, right? You have to do it, whether it's helping people or, you know, bringing joy or, you know, whatever that looks like. We help people drill down and then they come up with a purpose statement that will help them move forward, maybe find volunteer opportunities. Maybe they need to look for another job because what they're doing isn't working for them. So it just gives them some direction and some guidance on how to use that in their daily lives.
And you've helped people develop these in the past?
Yeah, we've done quite a few purpose workshops. We really fun. We've done them at Sonora Hills, so an older community, and we had just the most amazing feedback from that on how people really like. Oh yes, I love to cook. So now that person's doing cooking demos at Sonora Hills.
Wow.
So it like
That's
really
what I
morphs
wanted to ask you
into
about.
yeah.
What were some of like the discoveries that you helped people make about
Yes.
themselves?
You know, there have been people who were going through some personal, you know, health related issues, and it just made things more clear to them. A lot of people have talked about how it's helped them decide if they want to stay in a job or maybe look for something else.
Yeah.
It's just been amazing feedback.
That kind of, you know, that's a big one.
Yeah,
You know,
it
being
is.
in a career that it's hard to walk away.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I've been in jobs where I'm super happy with my job.
So are we.
It was before this Blue Zone, but I kind of went through a similar process myself, and I thought, you know, this really isn't what I want to do. But you're already into it. You've already invested time. You're making a little bit of money. You know, it may not be enough, but it's hard to walk away from that.
Yeah.
Right.
And but that little bit of stress every day that you feel like you're not doing the right thing with your life,
Right.
it adds up,
That's right.
and it sounds like it has an actual physical impact
It
on
does,
your
yeah.
quality of life.
Mental health, physical health, all of it is related.
Well, let me ask you. I'm going to put you on the spot now.
Yeah.
So tell me about your experience. What did you discover about your
Oh my
purpose?
gosh. Well, it just sort of solidified what I already knew about myself, basically managing things, you know, being on task, getting things done, getting to the heart of what the issue is. So I'm in the right place. I am absolutely in the right place. Yeah.
How about you, Tyler?
Yeah, I think for me personally, when I saw this opportunity come up, like I couldn't not apply for this job because I was aware of the Blue Zones project and some of the impacts that they can have on community. But trying to build community, trying to make connections amongst people, that it brings me joy, and that is one of the purpose activities in my life is to really love where you live, to love what you do, to enjoy, the Central Sierra is so easy, often, but it can be tough as well.
Yeah.
So what I like about the purpose workshops is it just helps you drill down on what are you good at, how do you take what you're good at and use that to build community.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a little bit of how much time do you spend bolstering the talents that you have, or how much time do you spend learning new things?
Right.
It's sort of a balance that we all have to
Yeah,
make. With
and
our
I think
lives.
you have to have both.
Yeah.
I think life is about continuing to learn new things and do
Grow.
new things and grow, but also, appreciating, what you have and where you're at. And so I do think, you need both of those, the yin and the yang,
Yeah.
for that happiness.
Yeah, and I'll tell you my thing. I realize that I don't like to do the same thing for too long.
Yes.
That's why, what I do now kind of I'm always doing something different, always, every day.
Yep.
And that's just right for me. It's kind of like those jobs where you have one task and you got to focus in on it and do it every day. You'll get really, really good at it. But for me, I get bored and distracted
Yeah.
really easily. And so it's like if I'm not learning something new, I'm not interested if I'm not learning something
That's
from anything I do.
And we're all different. Some people love that. Some people love the mastery. Some people love the, kind of expertise of that. And so I think as long as what fills your cup, and how you can use that it's helpful. And of course, a lot of people do know. But I think we go through these periods in our life, young people. And when I was young, people didn't really ask me, what are you good at, and how will you use that, in your future self, in your future life. And we have people who retire And then they say, okay, well, I had a purpose up until this point, and now what am I doing? Or now how do I give back? Or how do I, contribute to, our community? So I think it's an interesting evolution throughout our lives of, what we do at any particular time, and understanding that, knowing that is just one of many things that a Blue Zones project tries to, help a community with.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the Purpose Workshop is like next week, we're doing one for the kids in the EPIC Coalition. And then, so they're, teenagers in high school. And then we've done them, like I said, at Sonora Hills. We're going to do one at the Senior Center. So we're reaching all ages and stages. We can do them for businesses. We've helped ISIS and County Social Services with their Road to Resilience program. Did a workshop for them, so we can go out to a work site. We have them in our office. We can do them anywhere in the community. We did one in the Little House in Groveland actually recently too, and it went so well. They've already scheduled the next one.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Yeah. And Tyler, I wanted to talk a little bit. I know, so I got to know you. You're a very avid mountain bike cyclist, and you also are known as one of the architects behind the improvements on the Dragoon Gulch Trail in Sonora, which is probably, I guess, arguably the most popular trail in our whole county, most frequented, I guess. So going to that physical aspect of what it means to be a Blue Zone and getting out there, you don't necessarily have to, lift 200-pound weights every day, but you need to get out there and have some kind of physical activity, right?
That's right. Yeah, and I think, you mentioned Dragoon Gulch. I think that's a great example of how does the world around us affect our decisions. And, so I'd like to give, of course, all the credit to the city of Sonora and Rochelle Kellogg in particular for seeing an opportunity with Dragoon Gulch. But if you don't know about Dragoon Gulch, it's right in the heart of the city of Sonora. It's about a little over 100 acres, and it's a natural surface trail. But it's so accessible and it's so easy to get to for a lot of neighborhoods. You can walk right from your home. You can walk right from downtown or ride your bike. It's a kind of a multi-purpose area, but it's a natural environment. So one thing we know about our brains is that when we get into a natural environment, our blood pressure goes down, our breathing relaxes, you hear the birds chirping, you feel your feet on the dirt, and it changes us. It physically changes us. So having places like this that are close, that are accessible, that kids can get to, that are easy walking trails for, multiple generations within our community, really are key. Physical improvements, the types of things we can do in our community. Just before, we started our chat today, we were talking about, this woman that I saw in Columbia this morning on my way into work, and here she was, with a walker, straddling the fog line, coming down Parrots Ferry, basically stopping traffic in some ways to get from her home to the grocery store. And I think it's the perfect illustration of how, a lack of facilities can not only change the decisions that we make, but how often, we want to do it. So that affects our overall health outcomes.
Yeah, and you highlighted a major issue that I see in our county. It's something that, you and I have been talking about as long as we've known each other, about the lack of walkability. Dragoon Gulch Trail is one of the really great assets we have in our community. But if you don't live right in that neighborhood, if you live, in the Columbia region or down further into Jamestown, or these communities which, on a map are really not that far away. You could walk from Sonora to Columbia if you wanted to. It's just you'd be taking your life in your hands. How do we change that?
I think it's one step at a time. I think Dragoon Gulch is part of that. I think the county and city just got over $12 million in state funding for active transportation improvements, multi-use path that is going to come down Stockton Street and be part of this, kind of regional trail that goes from Jamestown to Columbia. Kristi's working on a project in downtown Sonora on Lineberg Street, which will, kind of be a new normal for the downtown, and we'll talk more about that hopefully. But I think, we don't try to change the world all at once, but we do one small, meaningful change at a time. And that's, one of the focuses of the Blue Zones project is to support, these changes in our physical environment that help people get out and walk and ride their bikes, to have parks to go to have public spaces to enjoy.
Yeah.
It's really kind of cool too, because we can do things called a demonstration project. So we can take like that area where that woman was walking along Parrots Ferry, and we can actually do a temporary solution. So we could put walking line striping, pedestrian identified area, and leave it up for 2 weeks or so, and get feedback from the community. So if there's a place that somebody has an interest in, that we can look at that to see how it would work. And then if things look good, then we can try to take the next step to make it permanent. Yeah.
You've been working at it for about the past year. How did it get started in Tuolumne County, and what have you done over the past year?
Well, it was Matthew Rose, if you remember Matthew, from Adventist Health. So he sort of took the lead to bring the awareness of Tuolumne County to Adventist Health Corporate, and who owns the Blue Zones Project label. So he invited them to come. They did all sorts of pre-surveys, pre-focus groups, all of this work to decide if we could be successful in implementing the Blue Zones Project here. And they decided that we would be. So, all this research, meeting with key stakeholders and community leaders to determine that, and then they said, okay, let's go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really huge investment, a Blue Zones project in a community.
Right.
I mean, there's 5 full-time staff members. We have a downtown office, and we're here for at least 5 years. So what I love about it is, and the investment is, it's how do we go upstream? Like, how do we try and make a change before people fall into the river, if you will? And how do we keep, folks healthier, through lifestyle changes before you're dealing with some of the outcomes of, of health-related issues later in life. So it's an interesting model. I think one that is pretty progressive, one that's being implemented all over the United States in communities, like Tuolumne County, in some cases very unlike Tuolumne County. Big areas. Bakersfield's doing a project. Fort Worth, Texas did a project. Southwest Florida has a big project going on. The beach cities in Southern California. So I think it's fascinating to see a large-scale health movement happening in the United States.
And it doesn't happen overnight. So
It doesn't?
The goal is the goal is to
You don't change long-standing bad
No,
health
I know.
habits overnight.
Who knew, right?
I
And
can't
there's not a
believe
little
that.
pill you can take either. So what we try to do is implement, small changes, make healthy choices available for people, easily available.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to think of a good example.
Yeah, working with a restaurant
Yeah.
to say, what menu options do you have that, are maybe a little bit healthier. So not taking anything away
Right.
from Tuolumne County or our residents or choice, but just adding to that.
Yeah, or making the default side dish a salad instead of fries. So if fries are still on the menu, you can still get them, but the side salad is the default.
Yeah.
So just little things like that.
I started doing that,
Yeah,
I
see,
don't
that's
order
great.
fries anymore.
You're already doing
It's
it.
kind of,
That's what we want. See, it's working.
yeah.
Yeah, I think another area that we
And I feel better. And changing habits it's hard. And it's harder it's harder to start.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's like the benefits come later. You have to make the
Right.
change first, and that's the worst point. That's the absolute worst point.
Yeah.
The longer you go with it, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
But it seems like a big part of your goal is to get people over that first part.
Well,
to
and
give them direction and
Yes.
help them make the change.
That's right. And what I love about the Blue Zones project is that it is not, Ryan, what are you going to do different? How are you going to do it different every day? But it's what can we do in the environment around us that just supports that. Working with employers, do they, encourage you to, when you've been working at your desk for an hour, to just jump up and take a 5-minute walk around the building? When you do office parties, you once in a while have a focus on, some bringing in foods, that's a healthy exchange. Day in and day out, like we spend our lives in spaces outside our homes that either help to lift us up and encourage us, or are part of the hurdles that we face. And so a Blue Zones project tries to encourage those types of behaviors and environments that naturally support you making decisions that will result in
You've had about a year in the community. You had that the Blue Zones Fair Festival.
That was our kickoff.
Yeah,
our
your kickoff
event.
party.
Yeah.
Really well attended. I
Yeah.
think that was one of the first major outdoor events
Yes.
post COVID-19, and so there were just a ton of people there.
Yeah.
Are you planning to do more events like that? What are some of the projects you have coming up in the future?
As far as another kickoff, I would love to do that, but I don't think Tyler's going to let us. It might be a smaller scale. Like we did the Jimtown Walkabout at Jamestown Elementary School in November, so that was kind of a big event. And then I'm really excited because I'm working with a Somerville High School student who's doing her senior project with us, and we're going to be partnering with Public Health, CalFresh, and having a walking event at Indigeny when we've been mapping the trails there. Not everybody knows that there are trails at Indigeny. So we're working with them and mapping the trails. We hope to have an electronic version and a printed version available for that sort of kickoff to unveil that trail. So
That's really cool.
yeah.
What are the other agencies or groups that you work with?
We are working, with lots of different partners. So as an example, in early March, we're going to start a community outreach process, working with the city of Sonora to do some conceptual design of the Lineberg Street closure. And Lineberg is right downtown, and you may have noticed that it has been kind of a pedestrian-only zone. There's been some dining that's been allowed in that area, but it's a public space. So we'll be working with the city of Sonora to look at the long-term functioning of that space. They've been operating with under some emergency guidance with COVID that'll be expiring later, and so they've asked us, can Blue Zones help us connect with the community to do a series of open houses and design work to say what's the long-term functioning of this. So we've got projects like that kind of all over the county right now.
What are some of the things that you think that you'd like to look at there?
Well, we're going to be doing a survey.
Yeah.
So before we actually have some experts come on site and do like tours of Lineberg and talk with people in the moment. We're going to do a pre-survey that we're going to send out to everybody. What do you like about Lineberg now? What would you like to see? And so there'll be options, and then there'll be a place to put additional, desires or wants or cool things.
Mark
that
me
you
down
see.
for cobblestone.
Well, make sure you get a copy of the survey. Yeah, we want to, launch that out.
Got a lot of
worldwide.
opinions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
But hopefully, we'll get some common themes throughout all of the feedback.
Yeah, I think, one thing that's exciting about that is coming from the Vision Sonora plan that was put together a number of years ago. And I think, folks who know about the Vision Sonora plan, know that things are being implemented. But folks who may not be as familiar may not recognize all the things that have come from that planning effort that was done, a decade ago. The bathroom rehab and the change that's coming to Stockton Street here, and aesthetic improvements along Main Street, and the closure of Lineberg originally. So I think what we've seen is when you have robust public input, you can explore some tricky topics like you're saying, like what do we do there? Is there a fountain, and this is an area where there's a little calm in the kind of energy of downtown Sonora, or is it a public-private partnership where you've got some outdoor dining, and is it a programming space for Second Saturday? So these are the types of options. Is it a transportation corridor that says, hey, there's more to town than Main Street, that draws you onto some of the other businesses that are off of Main Street? So I think there's lots of things to look at as part of a project like that.
So if you mentioned there's a lot of community support out there, and I think it's really clear that you're having a positive impact on the community. If somebody wanted to help out, volunteer, just get some more information about Blue Zones and the project that you're working on, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, lots of ways to connect with us. We have an office downtown, 31 North Washington Street. We've got a Facebook account. We've got an Instagram account. We've got a website that's very accessible. So we're looking forward to connecting with folks that we haven't connected with. And one of the things I think I'm most proud of with the project is the fact that we know we don't have the answers. We know the community has the answer. And so as folks come to us with ideas and opportunities, that's how we move this project forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have one more question for you on that. What are some of the ideas that you've got that are, Blue Zones is this large concept and idea, but coming down into our community, what are some of the very specific Tuolumne County kind of focused ideas that you've had?
That's a great call. So I'll give you a couple examples here quickly. One is we got Laureen Campagna, who was the health officer at Columbia College, who retired. And she said, I want to help this project in any way I can. Plug me in. And so we sat down with her and said, well, what are you good at? What do you like to do? She says, well, I'm a Tai Chi instructor. So the fact that we're offering now Tai Yoga Tuesdays, which is Tai Chi and yoga combined.
I get it. That's pretty clever. That's pretty clever.
Is the direct result of, this community members' outreach to us. Another gentleman from the Columbia area, John, he said, I would love to see an event in Tuolumne County where everyone can participate and everyone gets some kind of recognition just for doing what they can, whether that's walking 5 steps or running 4 miles. And so that's what the Jamestown Wellness Fair was all about. It was a series of opportunities to walk around the campus with varying degrees of difficulty. And then everyone who participated at the end got a certificate of achievement that said, here was my goal and here's what I achieved. And we tried to recognize folks. So those just 2 very small kind of ideas about folks who came to us and said, can I invest in the project? And here's my vision, or here's my idea. And the team rallied around those and created those opportunities. And we've had, as Kristi mentioned, we had 50 people come out to Tai Yoga Tuesday, yesterday, packed out. When our staff first said, we think we need to get the Sonora Opera Hall, and I thought, well, that's way too big. Like, there's just no way that we'll need that much space. We went to the city and said, hey, would you guys help us partner on this? And they said, oh, absolutely. And then yesterday to see that every square inch of that space was filled with community members wanting to move naturally in the morning blew me away, man. I was so happy.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Tyler. Great.
Thank
Always
you.
great to talk to you, Kristi.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you so much
Appreciate
for
it.
being here.
Before we end, I just want to say, the studio looks great,
Yeah.
and all the improvements here
Yeah, we have a
are
good time.
easily notable. And there was only one thing I noticed that was missing, which was a Blue Zones
Oh my gosh.
coffee mug for
Oh,
you
that's
to
awesome.
enjoy while you're interviewing your next guest.
Well, you're telling me to live longer and better, so
Yes.
I'll do my best to do that.
Thanks for having
We
us.
will help you.
Okay. Well, I'll come back anytime and we'll talk about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for joining us. I'm your host of The Conversation, Ryan Campbell, and join us again next week where we'll be living longer and better and talking to other interesting people from Tuolumne County. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Oh, thank you, sir.
You have the perfect voice for this
Yeah.
kind of thing. think.
Yeah.
I
I
really
do? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've